So I just spent like an hour and a half doing a video about Jordan's possible 13th rule, plow the shit. And I thought it was a kind of fun video where I played a song by Ben Caplan called Plough the Shit, and then I analyzed it, and then I played it again with the lyrics on the screen so you could hear it and see it, because some of the lyrics were hard to understand. The way I understood the copyright infringement on YouTube is that if something like that, playing his music video and hearing his lyrics, if that was to be in my video, then I would assume, as happened in the Joe Rogan case and the A Cure for Wellness case that I had, that they would assume ownership of the video. So any views or any ads that might run on there, they would obtain the profits from that. Little as they are on my tiny channel that's virtually non-existent. But instead, and that's fine. I was willing to do that. I thought adding the song and for you being able to hear the song in the video would be really helpful and entertaining and nice and fun. But YouTube, as soon as I uploaded it, within minutes, it blocked the video in everywhere, I guess. And you can see that right here. So I've cut out the piece of the video which I just have my analysis over the lyrics, and that's what you're going to get now. At the end of the video, I also played this song here by the record company Life to Fix. Now, the idea behind this video is that Plough the Shit is a possible 13th rule from the 12 Rules series. And I make the case by analyzing the lyrics. And I end the video, or I did end the video, by playing this song, which is Life to Fix by the record company. I guess you're just going to have to check out those songs if you're interested in this. This is definitely easier to fit into the 12 Rules for Life kind of mantra of Jordan Peterson. But I do make the case that Plough the Shit could also be put in there. So I'm going to stitch these two videos together, this little intro and explanation about what happened, and the video analysis. So if they seem kind of disjointed, that's why. Hopefully it all works this time. And again, if you're interested in these types of things about Jordan Peterson, about lyrics, about philosophy, about psychology and poetry, please hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you. So because some of the lyrics might have been hard to understand in certain parts of the song, I'm just going to read through them now as quickly as I can, because I want to get back to listening to the song one more time while the lyrics are on screen for you. But I'm going to review the lyrics with Jordan Peterson in mind, with his 12 Rules for Life. In a lot of ways, this guy, Ben Caplan, the way he sounds reminded me of like some kind of evil villain giving singing a song in a Disney movie. And like, I don't know, the genie from Aladdin came to mind, but sort of in an evil carnation where the genie or this guy is explaining the way the world works to a naive character, to a naive person. And in a lot of ways, Jordan Peterson is also telling us how the world works. He's saying there is a metaphysical reality. There's some kind of reality out there, and our structures of belief kind of mesh onto that structure of reality, and for better or for worse, depending on the belief. So, this guy has a perspective, Ben Caplan, as he's writing these lyrics, a certain perspective, and Jordan Peterson might share some of it, and this is what I want to explore with you. It's less about my commentary. I want to hear more about your commentary, how you view the song. Could this be the 13th rule, given the 12 Rules series? So he starts the song, "The world is an overflowing gutter. It bubbles with the brine of shit and blood, and those who keep their eyes upon the heavens are the ones that end up face down in the mud." And this kind of reminds me of the quote from St. Augustine, of all people. And it's a pretty famous quote where he says that, we're born between shit and urine. And blood too, I guess. He didn't say blood, but there's piss, blood, and shit all involved in the human going from the womb and exiting the womb into the world. And then you're in the midst of piss, blood, and shit, And that's your bringing, and pain, a lot of pain, coming into the world. That's how you're brought into the world. But you go from that, which is what this guy is talking about here, the overflowing gutter full of shit and blood, and the brine of shit and blood. You go from that as an infant newborn, that world of shit and blood, to the mother's milk. So it's almost like the Christ story in reverse. You know, the Christ starts out in the manger, the place where the animals feed, and that's where you get the milk of the manger. You know, that's the stuff that's easy to understand and easy to cope with. But then you end the story with, or not end, but one of the big parts of the story is the crucifixion. So that's the blood and the pain right up there. So anyway, I'm gonna keep going as quickly as I can because I want to get back to the song. It's easy to speak of grand ambitions. It's easy to pretend you're innocent, but lest you get distracted by the suffering of your sister being practical and trying to pay the rent. There's a couple of interesting things here. So, those who keep their eyes upon the heavens. So that's an orientation. You're oriented to look high up. And then he says, it's easy to speak of grand ambitions and pretend you're innocent. So it's the ones where their eyes are up on the heavens, they end up face down in the mud. So you can't have grand ambitions, you can't have lofty goals, because in this structure of reality, those are the ones that end up face down in the mud. Perhaps they're too naive. They believe in the God that is the old man in the sky, maybe, and not the God who's actually down here on earth in Jesus. Because the Jesus story, that God, he brings you face to face with the blood and the pain and everything that's guttural. All the sinners are made anew again in Jesus. So I don't think this takes that into account. But, you know, there's two things that I think about as I read this song. There's a dark way to interpret the lyrics, and there's certainly, this is, I think, a dark worldview, maybe a realist worldview. But there's also, you might be able to glean some lighter points out of this as well, which to me, the creative aspects of the song remind me of William Blake, which I'll get into. So it's easy to speak of grand ambitions, and it's easy to pretend you're innocent. And this is where I hear Jordan Peterson coming through the song. To pretend you're innocent. This is one of his big deals, is that you have to acknowledge that you could have been a guard in a concentration camp in the Nazi regime. And if you're not acknowledging that, you're actually kind of more dangerous than someone who does acknowledge it. So the first step to prevent that kind of horror from happening again is to have people, every individual, recognize their own capability for evil. And Jung called that the shadow self, the shadow part of the self. And in many ways, the person who is unconscious, who is unaware of their shadow, is much more dangerous than someone who is aware of it. And one of the things you'll hear the Rebel Wisdom guys talk about is incorporating the shadow, and that's what Jung tried to do. And it's a lot of work, and it's something to make yourself whole again. And Jung also sort of criticized the Christian God for, in some ways, I think in his critique of the book of Job, God seems to be nothing but shadow in how he treats Job. But then you have this other side in Jesus that seems to be divorced from the shadow. And now I wouldn't go so far as saying Jesus is divorced from his shadow self, but I could see why someone would say that. Anyway, so I rambled too long on that. But lest you get distracted by the suffering, so this is, distracted by the practical matters of life. You can't, sometimes that brings up too much of your time gets put into the practical realities of just getting by, and you don't see the true metaphysical reality of what is going on in the grand scheme of things in life. And this is what Jordan talks about in Maps of Meaning. So heaven has been promised to the righteous, hell's an overpopulated pit, purgatory is given to the dreamers. That's where I see William Blake. And if you're not familiar, if this is the first time you're checking out one of my videos, and you're interested in William Blake or poets or people who are creative and sort of these religious ideas, check out my Fearful Symmetry Fridays videos, because you're gonna see a lot of this kind of thing. So, but the world belongs to those who plow the shit. So there's the 13th rule. There's the assessment of the reality of the world. So heaven's promised to the righteous, but is it actually given? Who knows? But hell's an overpopulated pit. This we do know, that too many people end up in hell. Purgatory is given to the dreamers. These are the people who are imagining the place between heaven and hell. These are the people who are they see the potential in the world. They're the dreamers, but they can't keep their heads in the clouds, or else you're going to end up face down in the mud. So you're not going to make it if you're just a dreamer. You're going to end up in purgatory. But the world belongs to those who plow the shit. This is now, there's a dark way to see this. A realist sense that, you have to kill to live, right? Heraclitus said, life is a bow whose aim is death. So there's that sense of it, the realist way of looking at it. But I think there's also a Jordan Peterson way of looking at it, and this is why I say this could be the 13th rule. And again, I'm leaving this open for discussion. It's more provocative than anything. But so the world belongs to could this mean that the world belongs to those who do the dirty work, who do the dirty jobs, who are taking care of what has to be done? And you're going to see what has to be done later on in the song, if you gave it a good listen to begin with. What has to be done. So Jordan will say, it's a marvel that we have electricity. And he talks about a couple of guys working on the lines, and they're both kind of disabled, but one is able to make up for the disability of the other, and so forth. And they're able to get electricity to cold homes in Canada. So here, those who plow the shit. So plow the shit might be something you hear in Manitoba, Canada, in the oil fields, the guys who have to do the hard work so that the rest of society can function and function well. The trains run on time. You get your groceries in your grocery store. Everything is neat and proper and good because of those who plow the shit. So that's the lighter way of reading it, the Jordan Peterson way, I would say. So there's a special place in hell for fancy talkers. There's a special place in heaven for the whores. There's a throne reserved for those with good ideas, stolen by the demagogues who wanted more. So, there's a lot here. I'm going to leave this for your discussion if you want to comment on that. Like I said, I want to get through this. The flowers and the laces in the market are all purchased by the peddlers of the flesh. So that you have these good things. These are flowers and laces are beautiful things and things of the good that give you a relationship to the good, but they also reveal the bad. Once you, like Jordan says, once you have a relationship to the good, it is terrifying because it reveals the bad. And so there's the other side of the coin. There's the flesh peddlers, and there's the using of the body as body parts instead of the whole, the unity of the person. So, but those who bring relief in carnal pleasure, now here's again the other side of the other side. Those who bring relief in carnal pleasure sometimes serve the needs of mankind for the best. So he's saying, well, there is a dark side to the world and to reality, but that is sometimes working for the good. And this is a hard thing. I mean, sometimes it's a common sense thing. Sometimes it's an easy thing to understand. But many times this is a very difficult thing to understand. Cast off the limitations of the righteous. And I wonder how true it is. And we're going to get to that right here. There are good deeds only devils can commit. How true is that? Is that true? Is it not true? What would Jordan say about this? Are there good deeds that only devils can commit? Does God say, I am the creator of the good and all that is good and all that is evil? Well, what do you think? Let us dance between the teardrops and I think this says the teardrops of the angels, not and the angels. Let us dance between the teardrops of the angels, for the world belongs to those who plow the shit. So the good are crying over the bad that's happening in the world. Those in heaven are mourn those that have to deal with the earth. But if you want to get to work and get your life together and get things going, the world will belong to you if you can plow the shit. Again, I'm trying to give it a positive meaning there. At the last supreme, okay, so this is an interesting part of the song where the supreme maker decreed that this creature, to whom he could give nothing wholly his own. I believe this should be holy with a W, not this, but it's hard to tell without, I copied and pasted these lyrics from a lyric site, and not all of them are exactly correct as far as I could tell. So he could give nothing wholly his own, I think completely his own, should have a share in the particular endowment of every other creature. And this kind of reminds me of sort of evolution. You know, we came up from the bottom, biologically speaking, from the animals. So there are processes and genetic material and psychological material, if you want to say, that come from the animals, you know, that we share with lobsters, as Jordan is famous for saying, that these hierarchies, these modes of being go all the way down, not just, you know, 100 million years. They go for as long as there's been life, you know, possible on the planet, possibly billions of years, you know. I think Jordan gave the number that this, you know, 3.5 billion. There's such, that we're pressed onto what's out there, the mesh of reality. We've been pressed up against that as long as life has been around. And it's over those eons that we've evolved to, if you want to say succeed, to live, because the other alternative is death, and to live well. That's the other thing, is there's a mode of being to live, and there's a mode of being to live well. And if you want to bring Ian McGilchrist into this, there's a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere for a reason. And it's throughout all of the animal kingdom. There's this division in the brain to help us adapt to something out there in the metaphysical reality that requires a left hemisphere and something that requires a right hemisphere. And the way I understand that, there is something that requires you to live day to day as far as your daily needs. And there's something more that allows you to live well, which is something that's what Jordan's talking about, the ethical and moral reality of the world. Taking man, therefore, this creature of indeterminate image. You're going to hear that in William Blake, the indeterminate and the image in Jung. The indeterminate is always something in William Blake that's bad. It's part of hell, and it's also part of our fallen nature, our fallen reality. So he set him in the middle of the world and thus spoke to him. So here's God speaking to Adam. We've given you, O Adam, no visage proper to yourself. You come up from the animals. You're coming up evolved. But see, no endowment properly your own. There's a bit of everything. We have some of the reptile brain in us. That's why when something moves, we look. Our attention goes to it. We turn our attention to whatever is moving. That's why it's important when you're in school and you're in a lecture that nobody moves around. Nobody enters the class late, because as soon as someone enters the class late, our reptilian brains, everybody looks right at that person and they take their attention away from the professor. In order that whatever price, whatever form, whatever gifts you may, with premeditation select, and here I see a sort of satanic Luciferian principle from Paradise Lost. This is Eve in the garden talking. This is not God talking. This to me is Lucifer. Whatever gifts you may select, you know, with premeditation, with your own intellect, with your will, the same may you have possessed through your own judgment and decision. See, your own judgment and decision, this is taking it away from God. It's in man's hands. We have made you a creature neither of heaven nor of earth. So you're not quite an animal and you're not quite divine. You're not a god. You're not an angel. You're not just an animal. You're something in between. You're neither mortal nor immortal. Where does man fit? This has been the problem ever since Charles Darwin came out with his theory of evolution. So man has struggled to find his place. We struggle because we feel like we're not just an animal, yet we're not a god. We're something in between. We're divinely inspired. In order that you may, as the free and proud shaper of your own being. Now this could be something William Blake's talking about. You're made in God's image, not just because you're rational, not just because you have free will, but because you are a creator, just like your creator is. We have the power of creativity, of imagination, to shape our own being to some extent. And so I'm trying to give this a positive reading, a good reading, that I think William Blake might assent to. Fashion yourself in the form you may propose. This is kind of satanic. It's kind of Luciferian. It will be in your power to descend to the lower brutish forms of life, so you could be good or you could be bad. You can be just an animal. You will be able, through your own judgment. Now, this is the part that's kind of unchristian, that's kind of devilish. Your own judgment, your own power now to ascend, to rise again to the superior orders of life divine, or a divine life. So you could look at that several ways. And again, I don't want to comment too much on this. It's already running really long. But I want to get back to playing the song with the lyrics up so you can see it. So I'm going to try to just run through this real quick. The dead become the emperors of memory. This is right from William Blake. The saints have all been eaten by the worms. The living will write a twisted future, and the sinners all have practical concerns. The sentinels with rifles on the border of the pretenses of charity are swept. Oh, but let's not talk of slipping into nightmares, for the days are run by those who haven't slept. So it's these people who are running society. They're the ones with worries, concerns, stress. They don't sleep. Their nightmares, what they might have as nightmares, end up manifest in the reality that they are shaping, that they are running the world. They don't have time to sleep. So throw away the vestments of the righteous. Make sure the body almost lovely fits. The souls are taking flight now. This says, the lyric said bullhouse. I don't know what that word actually is, but birdhouse or something. I can't tell. And the world belongs to those who plow the shit. Again, you can read that darkly or maybe in a more Petersonian fashion. I leave that up to you. Let me know in the comments. Now, I had trouble with this video. When I was doing this commentary on the lyrics, my mic was actually muted the first time, so I had to redo this commentary with it unmuted, hopefully. And now I have to splice it back into the video. So this might seem a little disjointed, but there it is.
Well, there's a guy who's got a little YouTube channel, and I've been sending a lot of people his way, Node in a Network, and he's basically been reading all of the stuff in the footnotes of Maps of Meaning,
where we're all sort of plugged in as like nodes on the network.
Node in a network, there's a good username.
A node in a network.
The wrong model, because you're at the center of a network. You're a node in a network.